Hey everybody, welcome back to Matthew Kelly Pottery. I hope you are doing well. Today we're going to talk about making twisted bowls. I'm going to show you the whole process from throwing, the twisting of it, and then actually trimming as well. Believe it or not, yes, Matthew Kelly is trimming pots. I know I've had those comments on a couple of my posts, and but I actually even took it a step further with these twisted bowls. I trimmed the inside and the outside because the weight of these is almost impossible to get to a nice weight without trimming the inside, and so I just decided I was going to go ahead and trim the inside and the outside. And obviously this idea, just like any idea in pottery, is not all my idea. Obviously I've adopted it and made it my own in certain ways, but probably big inspiration from when Williams Pottery went to Japan. Saw those videos of the pieces, that twisted pieces they made. Dwayne's Pots is another guy on Instagram that makes some beautifully twisted pieces and then does soda firing. But anyway, and I'm also doing a voiceover on this video because I didn't feel like talking while I was making these, and so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to record it and then I'll do the voiceover later. So this is what we got for this video. But as I said, and as I showed you with the twisted mugs, the goal with making these twisted pieces is to throw a thick, slender cylinder. So you want a cylinder that's you don't want to pull it really thin. So that's kind of easier in a way, and then also, but then you want to make that cylinder really skinny and really tall. If you don't make it as skinny or as tall when you go to twist it, or you go to after you do the facets and then you go to push it back out from the inside, you won't get nearly as much twist. So a couple tips, things that I've learned. Yes, the skinnier the cylinder, obviously you want to get that cylinder wall pulled as even as possible, so that as you then carve the facets, which you try to get those pretty consistent as well, you'll get kind of like an even twist. Also, if you use really stiff clay, it doesn't want to twist nearly as much as if you use softer clay. So those are a couple tips that I've learned. A lot of the twist I've noticed comes from having that softer clay. Also, a lot of down pressure when I go to do the initial push from the inside after I've carved the facets. That makes a big difference. So anyway, now specifically on these twisted bowls, something I'm doing different on these than I did the mugs. I'm going to use a wire tool to do the facets on these, as well as I'm going to trim all the way from the near the bottom all the way through the rim, as you'll see here in just a second. I'm using this wire tool that's just attached to a U-piece shaped of metal, a U-shaped piece of metal, not a U-piece, a U-shaped piece of metal with a wire attached to it. You could use a cheese cutter, whatever you want, but I try to get pretty consistent cuts with this. You can see I'm not going all the way to the bottom. That helps with trimming the foot later, but I am going all the way through the rim because my goal with these is actually to get kind of that uneven rim on top. But I'm also going to trim away some of that rim later, you'll see, and then push down to get that thicker rim. And something I've loved seeing about Dwayne's Pots when he does his twisted bowls or mugs. I don't know if he does mugs actually, but doing his twisted bowls, I love seeing that thick rim that he does and pushes it back down, and it gets that really, kind of wabi-sabi look to it. So anyway, so here's adding the water back to just the inside, and then you can see as I push on the inside, I've got a lot of down pressure, and with that softer clay, I'm getting that really nice twist in there. And actually, you can obviously it's not going to twist nearly as much at the top as it is in the middle and at the bottom, but I want to get that twist pretty much from here. Now I'm just pushing out. Like I said, most of that twist happens from that initial push with a lot of down pressure. Then my goal is to get that really nice twist in the bottom, like 3/4 of this, because then I decided, I'm not going to worry about how uneven the top is, because I realized I'm going to cut a lot of that off, so then I can beef up the rim, kind of start with like an even cut and then beef up the rim. So you can see it has a really cool uneven rim now, but I want it a little bit different than that. So I decided, I'm going to make these, and then I cut off like the top like inch and a half. And once I get that cut off, then I still got this uneven thickness around, and now what I'm going to do is add water to that and then push down on it like you would if you were compressing the rim of anything else. And I'm going to kind of let that, if it gets a little uneven, I'm just trying to follow that as I'm doing that, and then kind of push down on the outside as well, kind of curve that rim over a little bit and then pull out. So now I'm going to do a little bit more shaping from the inside. So I want to kind of belly that out a little bit more, and then I actually push the rim out a little bit more as well. So I made several of these. This is probably not my favorite one of all the ones I made, but it was the one that I was videoing. So I got a couple others that the rim was a bit more uneven, and I like that even better. And you'll see when the wheel stops here, you can see it a lot better where the unevenness of the rim kind of really comes into play. The other reason, like I said, that I decided to trim the inside of these, you can see from the top view on this one, you can kind of see it comes down and then it drops down to that very center part. And all that thickness there, unless you trim the inside, all that thickness stays in the pot. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does make them quite heavy. So you can see here, it's got like it's leaning to one side a little bit, but then I love the way that rim kind of like drips down in different spots there. Kind of follows where the twists kind of come up. But like I said, this one doesn't get as uneven as others, and so it's not my favorite, but it still is a nice piece, and I got the effect that I was going for the most part. Now on to the trimming of these. I leave these attached to the bat. That really helps with the trimming of the inside. You don't have to use lugs to attach the piece back to the wheel in order to trim the inside. And because I'm not trimming the outside of this other than the very bottom, you don't have to worry about trimming too much on the inside or trimming some on the inside and then having to trim the outside. Anytime you would trim a bowl, you would probably just be trimming the outside. And if you trim the inside and the outside, there's a big chance you could get it too thin. But with this, I could pretty much just trim the inside. And I'm not going in the very bottom in the middle. I'm mainly just going for that side wall from about halfway down to where the flat part of the bottom was. So maybe an inch or so out from the middle on the bottom. I did speed up this video for the most part because the making of the piece was like 5 minutes and then the trimming was like 10 minutes. And I'm like, nobody wants to see me trim this thing for 10 minutes straight. And I don't know if I have that much to say. So you can see here, trimming the inside makes a mess. And there's not, that I know of anyway, around that. And so although this is kind of a pain, I've done this with a handful of pieces now. And I love the way they turn out. I love the way they look. But it is kind of a pain to trim the inside, and so that's why I had never done it before. Trimming in general is not something that I really thoroughly enjoy, and so I just don't do it a lot. I think it makes nice pieces, but my goal is to throw pieces that are the correct thickness, that I don't have to trim them, and even as far as shape goes, if I can get the shape that I'm going for without trimming, that's kind of why I don't trim very much. So you can see here I trimmed the inside and then I went back and put a swirl on the bottom. The clay was soft enough that I could still do that. Now you can see I'm wiring the piece off from the bat. Now I'm going to use my sticky bat from Diamond Core Tools to flip this piece over. Now this is where the tricky part really comes in for trimming these, because two things are happening. You have to center this, which you always have to do in trimming, but I also have to level it. And so I'm using little strips of my foam paper that I use when packing and shipping pieces, and so I kind of use that as a way to level the piece, and then after I get it leveled, so I'm kind of bending over to look at the side of the piece to see if it's running level, and now I'm going to actually center it. And you can't really tap center this because of it's sitting on these little pieces of foam paper, but you'll see here in a second that I get it centered good enough that I can start to trim. So there we go, we've got it centered up, and I'm going to use my trimming spinner from Diamond Core Tools. So all the tools for trimming I'm using here are from Diamond Core Tools. I have my sticky bat. This is the extra small trimming spinner, and then I also have the half dome trimming tool. And so that's my favorite one, because then I get a 90-degree angle, plus I get the curved side of that one, and so I can do both. So the only part of the bottom of this that I trimmed that actually has a little bit of the twisted part to it is right kind of at the you saw me trim it there a second ago, at the very top of the foot or the base of the bowl, just to kind of even that up and to get that angle right there where I come in from the bowl to the foot. Trim that. And so you can see I start digging down here, and then I'll remove the trimming spinner to do the inside of that. Obviously this is not placed on the wheel with lugs, and it's also not in contact with the sticky part of the bat on every surface, so it's a little tricky. You can with these, they can move a little bit easier than other pieces that are just sitting right on the sticky bat. So I've got my my left index finger kind of sitting there to try to help, and you can see it's even gotten a little off center already, and I have to readjust it because of trimming on it. But the bowl itself is already a little wabi-sabi, so it's not like I have to get a perfect foot on the bottom, but I also don't want it all wonky either. So trying to trim this out, and I don't want to have to pick it up and check to see how thick it is. So I'm just trying to go by look and feel so that I can trim a good foot on it, get that inside of the foot trimmed out so to get all the weight out of there, get a nice looking foot. I did trim a couple others where I did a little bit more of a rounded foot instead of that sharp angle that's on this one, and I actually like that better because it kind of matched the roundness of the bowl as well. So in future ones that I made, since I made this one, I did a little bit more of a rounded foot on it, and I kind of like that better, but that's kind of all just preference. And then instead of signing these, I use my my little button that I put on all my handles, kind of my little signature button. I use it in the bottom, right in the center of the bottom. And that's where now we'll get back to normal speed on this video as I make a little ball of clay and then use it in the center, and then use my my little stamp, my little homemade stamp, to make the to make that into a button with my signature little design that's in there. So anyway, so this is a twisted bowl from throwing and trimming all in one. I'm getting ready to glaze some of these. I was doing some glazing earlier today, and so I've got the idea to glaze the inside of some of these and leave the outside completely raw, even in my gas kiln. I'm going to try that and see how some of these look like that. But as you can see, the twist looks really cool. It's like started to rip a little bit, but not too much, and just turned out beautiful. So give it a shot and let me know how it works for you, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.